Like, how do you feel about sequels?
I feel like for sequels, okay, so sequels is like there are some sequels where they actually have something to add to the story. There's questions that could be answered, or there's actually something new and dynamic that you would like to see the story go, where it's organic and it makes sense. And there's other sequels where the chemistry or the feeling that you get from watching those films is so positive and so great, you could care less if the story has anywhere else to go. You just want to come back like a high, like a drug. You just want to come back and see it again. I want to come back and see these guys again. Like, regardless of what situation or the scenario or the script, how bad the script is, how bad the storyline is, it doesn't make sense. All you want to see is these characters. When you're in love with the characters so much, you just want to come back and revisit them over and over and over again, despite the quality of the material itself. So I don't mind sequels. I think that sequels, some of the best films ever are sequels.
Okay.
I think that some of the best books out there are sequels as well. I think sequels are healthy. When you start forcing a third film for the sake of a trilogy, when you start going into these big, broad projects of spin-offs and side characters and potential sequels, I think, and even prequels, I think you start getting into that you get into that space where the point of no return, where you're basically milking your franchise dry. The Hobbit trilogy, the Lord of the Rings fans, whoever of them are left, were really upset about the Hobbit trilogy, how there was nothing left. The quality itself of that trilogy was bad, and then
right, because they ran kind of thin on the source material, right?
Yeah, the source material was one book, stretch it to 3 movies.
That didn't make any sense. That was insane. Like, I read The Hobbit in 7th grade for my reading class, and I mean, wow, it was a damn good book. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
that was a damn good book, but it's just crazy to think that they stretched out 3 2-hour-plus movies out of that bit of source material.
Right, because was it Paramount Pictures? They needed New Line Cinema. Who's behind the damn Lord of the Rings? One of them it's an old cat studio, man. They just needed that next big thing to keep that company going. I mean, that's all that was basically. Now I'm hearing shit about them having a new TV series. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, even so just going back to sequels, right? Like, you said some of the best movies have been sequels.
Yeah.
Specifically, like, which ones would you pinpoint to where you would say, okay, this was a sequel to another movie, but it surpassed kind of what was there? Like, I've never seen this one before, but like the ones that I kind of read about are like Evil Dead, the sequel to that one, the second Mad Max movie that had Mel Gibson in it. I still haven't seen that one, even though that was also a sequel.
All right, let's talk Terminator 2. Okay. We'll go Back to the Future 2. Well, the Dark Knight. I mean, there's more than that. What else we got here?
I mean, I'm a T1 guy, but I get
okay.
What you're saying.
Okay, you're T1.
But the thing is, for the time that it came out, Terminator 2 changed the entire landscape. I just feel like T1 aged a little bit better because of practical special effects.
Okay, gotcha.
But T2, on its own merit, is still a great movie.
Right, but the CGI just ain't holding up in 2020 is what you're saying.
Yeah, but as a movie, T2 was fire. I could watch T2 any day of the week. Well, yeah, continue. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, shit, I don't even know what I was going off on, but
no, you said Back to the Future 2, Terminator 2, The Dark Knight.
We'll go with Winter Soldier better than First Avenger. I mean, if you want to count that. Let's see here, man. Shit. For sequels. Damn, I mean, not Lost World Jurassic Park, not better than the first. Nah. Even though Jeff Goldblum did a great performance in that for his character. All right, I'm empty-handed right now. I think.
Well, no, even like the Godfather Part 2. The difference with some of these sequels though is I think the thing that makes a sequel actually work is you take when you take the same energy from the original and it carries over to the sequel. Like the sequels that don't work are always the ones that end or that begin right where the one before it ends. Those are the ones to me that don't work. Like everybody likes the original Rocky movie, right?
Right.
Rocky 2 came out, I think, 3 years after the first Rocky movie came out. But the beginning of it is set right at the end of the first Rocky movie. Everybody's a little bit older, a little bit heavier, and everything like that. But you're meant to believe that literally seconds and minutes have passed between the first movie and the second one, even though in real time 3 years passed, right?
Right.
So to me, sequels work when you're telling a different story set within the same universe or the same area. When a sequel is just trying to pick up on threads from the first one, to me, it doesn't work as much. Personally, it doesn't work the same way. Like, the reason why I think The Dark Knight is such a great sequel is that it's also a standalone story that just continues one particular character's storyline. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
So
see what you're saying.
Because I saw The Dark Knight before I actually seen Batman Begins.
Gotcha.
But they're not so hung up on trying to connect everything to where you could go into The Dark Knight having never seen Batman Begins and that be okay.
True.
See what I mean?
Yeah, definitely see what you're saying. I mean, like, Spider-Man 2, how did we forget about that? I don't know. I mean,
exactly. Even X-Men, even X2, like X2 is a good sequel. It's telling the story set within the same universe, but it's not a direct sequel to some of the events that happened in the first one.
Yeah, that's true. Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back.
Exactly, right?
There we go.
You see what I mean? Like that, for me, sequels work when you can transfer, if you can transfer the same energy and the same amount of effort as you put into the first one without trying to hit some of the same beats. Like within the last month, I watched the original Indiana Jones trilogy. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and then The Last Crusade. I watched all three of those movies on Netflix, man. Oh my God.
That's a marathon. Whew. That's a good time.
Bro. And like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom, like, bro, them joints was fire. And them motherfuckers was dark and violent and all of that. Like, I learned that the Temple of Doom is the reason why PG-13 exists. That movie and Gremlins are the reason why PG-13 is actually a real rating.
Yeah, them motherfuckers are in real danger in that film. Like, no games was played.
But like the thing is, you watch Temple of Doom, the only connection between Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom is Indiana Jones. If you've never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, you could still watch Temple of Doom and enjoy it for what it is because it's a sequel, but it's not telling the same story. It's not a continuation of the story from the first movie.
Damn, yeah, man, you're totally onto something here. Thematically speaking, I mean those are true statements where these are sequels where you don't have to entirely see the first one. You don't really have to get or understand the first film. They're almost self-contained. They're almost not even a sequel. They're self-contained and part of a trilogy, but you can just watch that one film from start to finish and you have a complete story within a trilogy or a complete story that's interconnected with other stories.
Right. Everything that you need to know about that particular story has a beginning, middle, and an end. Right there. Boom. And then we're out of there. Right?
Right. Superman too. Yep. I mean, yeah.
See, now we in a
Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Like the ones to me that did not work, like oh man, like I'm not trying to catch heat for this, but
Go ahead, man. Speak your
like,
truth.
okay, The Matrix, right?
Right.
The Matrix first one that came out was a classic.
No.
Like the original Matrix was a landmark. You could literally view the Matrix as a piece of art in terms of what it did for what movies were and what we thought they could be. That changed the entire landscape of everything that we thought movies could be back in 1999, right?
Right.
But I will say this wholeheartedly. If there was ever a series of movies that should have stayed at one film and left it alone, it should have been The Matrix.
Mm.
There was no reason at all that The Matrix should have been a trilogy aside from money. There was
Yeah,
too much.
I mean,
There was
the
too much
sequels are
money.
not regarded.
There was too much money, I think, for Warner Brothers to not want to invest in a sequel. But if anything, it shouldn't have been a trilogy. The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions are really just one movie that was too long to be one movie.
I think they even filmed it back to back then, so it was just pretty
Yep.
much. Yeah, I mean, they pretty much made one movie and just spliced it into two films.
And it was disappointing. For me, it was disappointing. Like the Matrix. Oh my god, bro! Like I can't even. I really can't even explain it. But the original Matrix is just it's up there. I could watch. That's another movie that I could watch any day of the week. I could
Yeah.
watch it from the beginning to the end, from the middle to the end. I could watch the last 5 minutes of it and be okay with that because it just did so many things right for the
Mm-hmm.
time. Like you went into it, like you didn't know that there was going to be two movies that came after it when you went
No.
into it and watched it. You went into it fresh with the idea that I'm going to watch this movie and this is something that I've never seen before. Okay, even and I hope this isn't a reach. Like this is going back to when me and you was in high school, bro. You remember when 300 came out?
Yeah, I remember when 300 came out.
Whew, bro.
Yeah,
Oh
man,
my
everyone was on that Spartan shit then.
dog. Like I had it on bootleg. I ended up coming up on a book. Remember bootleg DVDs?
Oh, dude, you was the man back then. If you could get that shit from your barber shop or someone
Oh
from
my
your class, if you could make some bootlegs, you were making some dough. You were the guy. You were that guy. You
So
know what I mean?
prime example of why sequels don't always work. So I came up on a bootleg copy of 300. It had Spanish subtitles to go along with the English dialogue or whatever. I couldn't even tell you. I don't even remember how I got this bootleg copy of 300.
Right.
But okay, now while the story of the movie is pretty basic, I mean the dialogue, there's a lot of things you can point out in 2020 that might have been wrong with that movie at the time, but it was still something that you had never seen before, right?
Right.
I mean, it birthed like the movie 300 might have birthed toxic masculinity. That might have been the genesis of toxic masculinity.
And the slow mo action scenes for sure.
Right. But the reason why so many people gravitated towards that is because visually it was something that you never seen before.
Right. Zack Snyder was on that shit, top of his
He
craft with that film, man.
he was in his bag. Like visually, it was something you never seen before. Even if you weren't a fan of the story, and even if the movie was predictable and everything like that, the set pieces, the sequences, it was like, whew, it was fire, right?
Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit for that.
Right. So you give that high marks because of that. But then 7 years later, when they tried to make a sequel to 300, eh,
With the naval warfare, with
you
them
see
being
what I
out to
mean?
sea. Yeah.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
even if story wise, that might have been a little bit more interesting than the first movie was because it was just giving you a different perspective of everything there. But because there was nothing in that movie that you didn't already see in the first one that had more quality to it, that took more time into it. You see what I mean?
Most def.
There's nothing that you didn't see in that second movie that they didn't do better the first time around. So that made a sequel to that movie completely unnecessary and irrelevant. I'll give you another example. Do you remember Sin City?
Yeah, I remember Sin City.
The first one, the first Sin City movie, bro, that Robert Rodriguez directed. Again, that might not be a critically acclaimed type movie or anything like that, but for me, I enjoyed it because it was something that I'd never seen before. With the visuals, the black and white, the way that everybody was acting, it was hammy as fuck, and and it was an ode to kind of those film noir TMC black and white movies that get played 24/7, right?
Oh, RP TMC, man.
Yeah, it was an ode to that kind of thing, and when you seen it, it was still different enough to where you never seen it before. But then they waited 10 years later and did a sequel to Sin City, right?
Right.
And it didn't feel the same way. It didn't hit the same way because it didn't bring anything new to the table.
I mean, The Crow too. Do we have to say any more than that?
No, we don't.
The list can go on and on, but most definitely, dude, with your examples, man, you're really showcasing that there are a lot of unnecessary sequels out there that don't really have much to say or much to do other than trying to cash in a check on another potential hit based on brand name alone.
Like, it's just crazy, man. Like, RoboCop, original RoboCop holds up to this day, but ain't nobody saying nothing about RoboCop 2 and 3 at all. Like, at all. Like, we ain't getting shit out of RoboCop.
But you said Blade 2, you're like, oh shit, let me put it in right now. I want to watch it.
Oh man, Blade 2. Whew.
Mm-hmm. Whew. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Like, see, similar again. I think there's a certain level of quality that was there, but then again, Guillermo del Toro directed the first 2 Blade movies, if I'm not mistaken. Like that's he doesn't fuck around. Guillermo del Toro doesn't fuck around. So Blade 2, I mean, was Blade 2 better than Blade 1?
Questionably, yeah, man. For sure. The first film was directed by Stephen Norrington.
Oh, my bad.
But Blade 2 was Guillermo del Toro.
Okay, my bad. I thought he did both.
But still, great job on the first one. But Blade 2, questionably better than the first. I mean, with Donnie Yen in there and the story, the fight sequences, it can go either way for a lot of people.
Ron Perlman.
Oh man.
All right, yeah, Blade 2 was better than Blade 1, man. Yeah. And I gotta say that with my head down. I gotta put my head down and say Blade 2 was better than Blade 1. But yeah, like that's another example. But again, I think it worked because they were telling a different story, and Wesley Snipes brought something to the table that was different at the time. Wesley Snipes brought something to the table to where you wanted to see him do it again in the next one. Blade 3 fucked up because they tried to do the backdoor pilot treatment. You know what I'm saying?
They tried to take an MCU route before the MCU.
Yeah, they tried to do that there. Blade 3 didn't work at all. Like, Dracula? Huh? Okay.
Possibly Triple H's best on-screen performance.
Oh, dog. I forgot Triple H was in that, man. I forgot. Damn, man.
Man, that was Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool edition was in that film.
Mm-hmm.
Way before it was even thought of Deadpool could be a
I agree with that. And I mean, I think Ryan Reynolds did okay, right?
Yeah, it was serviceable for what he had.
But yeah, that was complete bullshit. Blade Trinity was ass. And I'll be the first one to tell you that. Like, Blade versus Dracula, okay. I mean,
grand concept, but
I mean,
horrible execution.
Yeah, man. Like, that might have been around the time. Yeah, like, shout out to Wesley Snipes, man.
Oh man, he held it down for us for so many years.
Shout out to Wesley Snipes, man.
For real. I just wish he would have paid his taxes so he could continue with this
Oh
movie
man,
roles, but
no, that's
he
a
was
fact.
killing that shit, man. He was killing that shit.